Know your product and your competition. I, in 1991, reached the pinnacle of corporate success, and I was named the brand manager of Metamucil. Mr. Happy Bowel. We'll have a Q&A at the end. If you ask me a question about constipation, I'd rather take that offline and do a one-on-one. But I know more about constipation than anybody you ever freaking meet. I hated X-Lax. I hated Citrussil. I knew my distribution channels, my products, my packaging. I knew it. It was my business. It was a $160 million business. We made $40 million in profit. I was in charge. If not you, who? Who? Know your product and your competition. The bottom one is the crazy one because you know what? Doing your job today is really good. But you also have to look around and say, wow, my business needs to change. And you can't just go, yep, needs to change. You need to be the person leaning in. If you're really going to lead your business in real leadership ways, and I don't care what level you are, you can lean into this and you can either suggest things, drive things, figure out how to get it done. You have to be the person that helps drive it. You need to know when your business needs to change and drive it. So once again, when I interview folks, I look for 3 areas of leadership: business, people, and self. This is the business one, and it's not hard. Do your damn job well, know your product and your competition, and figure out the change and drive it. Let's move on from business, and let's talk about your people. About 15 years ago, I changed how I operated here on this one. I used to take the talent, and I said talent matters, and I hope they have a good attitude. I have completely thrown that out the window now. You know what? I guarantee you there's 100 people you can find that can do virtually any job you have, especially in this economy. What I want to do is find somebody that can do the job, and the hurdle rate of talent is there. It's just lower than I thought, and I want someone with a great attitude. I want them to want to kick ass. Let's have at it. Let's go do it. Let's have an attitude, and if you turn those people loose, it is crazy what they'll do for you. It's a secret as an executive. My goal as an executive is to do very little. My kids would say, Dad, for a living you do email. I'd say, yeah, but I'm a bigwig. Well, it doesn't look like it. All you do is email. I said, okay. You know what? It's because I turned them loose. Do the best you can. Second one is show them you care. This is a crazy one. I got this from Sam Walton. It was amazing. They knew he cared about them. It doesn't mean you're soft. Set direction, set the bar, have the tough conversation, but show them you care. I inherited my job at Embark, my last job. 4,000 people, 3,000 of them were on the phone, making about $12 an hour. We treated them like kids. If they were 5 minutes late, they got an occurrence. If they had 3 occurrences, they got a tardy. 3 tardies, they're fired. 5 minutes. They were driving 40 minutes in eastern North Carolina to get to a call center. We were treating them like a kid. I said, this is crazy. We rolled out a new one. We listened to them, rolled out a new program, and it was give me 8. I don't care when you show up and when you leave, as long as you give me 8, you have a 60-minute window to show up and leave. You'd have thought I doubled their pay. These people are like, oh my gosh, this is great. And the beautiful thing about it is the self-policing. The people love the program so much that when the person here is trying to cheat me and show up 10 minutes late and leave 10 minutes early so they're not giving me my 8, 4 or 5 people would go over to him and go, dude, we like the new plan. You appear to, but it's because you're cheating it. If we have to go back to the old plan, we're going to kick your ass. And so they'd point to the picture of me over in the corner and say, give the man 8. I love that. Show you care. Just show them you care. It's amazing. Practice servant leadership. This was actually on a couple of charts earlier today. This was a Sam Walton thing. I walked into headquarters in Walmart in 1989. I was a young punk. On the wall, 3 feet high letters, it says servant leaders. Every one of the vice presidents up in that company, their names were written on the wall. I heard Sam Walton say this, and I loved it. He said, if you're a leader in this company, your job is to make the people that work in your org make their job easier. I thought, that's powerful. And then he went on, and I almost melted. He said, and if you get it backwards, you won't work here. Oh, that was so beautiful, because I had a bunch of ninnies I worked for, and they thought it was my job to figure out whether they like Diet Coke or Diet Pepsi, whether they like voicemail versus email, whether they like this and that, whatever. I want to put my energy outside trying to win, not trying to figure out what my boss wants and to make them happy. Think about servant leadership. You can call it from the Bible, you can call it from the business world, but at the end of the day, it's trying to figure out how to turn your people loose and make them successful. So we talked about leading the business. We talked about leading people, and don't forget, this has nothing to do with whether you have people that work for you. The frontline employees that worked at Embark, all 3,000 of them had no one that worked for them. They had ideas. They sent things forward. One of the things I did, and it took me 9 months after I got the job before they got it. Every time I talked to them, I said, anybody can call me or email me with any information without copying your boss. The whole room gets shocked at first, especially my lead team. They're like, whoa, we got to control that kind of conversation. I'm like, whatever. If somebody has a good idea, don't make them go, It's silly. You think you're going to get swamped. What happens is you get about 2 or 3 notes a week. And they're darn good. Or they're about some person who's a schmuck as a leader. You don't get bad things. In 4 years of doing that, I got one person that sent something that wasted my time, and I handled it exactly the same as if it was an HR issue. A lady in a call center in Medford, Oregon, sent me an email that said, the person next to me is chewing their gum real loud. Can you make them stop? My team was appalled. Oh, you should tell her not to waste your time. I said, no. You missed the point. I told her. She can email me. So I went and looked the policy up. It said as long as she wasn't on the phone with a customer, she can do anything she wants. So I sent her an email back and said, earphones or earplugs would be a good thing because there's no policy against that. And she thanked me. Wow, that was kind of weird. Servant leadership. I was a crazy leader at these big companies. They're like, how in the hell did that guy get to be number 3 in our company? Third, leading yourself. This is actually the cool one, and it really just has to do with personal responsibility. Let's go through this. Always compete. Oh, I love this. I time myself to work every day. I drove 4.5 miles. I had 3 different ways I could go. My whole org, when we started an all-hands meeting, wanted to know what my record was. Because if I drove in and beat my record, which I ended up at 8 minutes and 25 seconds, I would get out and I would spike my briefcase and say, it's going to be a good day. We are competing like mad. Life is good. You got to compete appropriately. You should compete. If it doesn't have a scoreboard, why bother? My kids have heard me say that so much. They're 2 teenagers, they roll their eyes. And if it doesn't have a scoreboard, why bother? There goes Dad again. It's not spring training, folks. This is life. The participation trophy. Yeah, I said, just wait, man. That first job, the boss is going to pat you on the head and say, thanks for showing up. Now you're fired because you're no good at what you do. Wow. Compete. Compete. Have fun. Enjoy yourself, but compete. Own your stuff. No excuses. Oh, it's whining. It's raining. I took a right instead of a left. I couldn't get my homework done. The dog out. Whatever. Own your stuff. You know what your stuff is. If you're a senior executive, you know what your stuff is. If you're a frontline employee, you know what your stuff is. Own it. No whining. That's a simple point. If you're going to lead yourself and you want people to think of you in that way, you have got to own your stuff. Solutions. Issues. Bottom one, I have a whole presentation I do about personal branding. I love it. I think there's 7 words that describe everybody. And I have a slide that puts up there that the people in my org anonymously have given me, and I filtered through it, and I said, those are the 7. I love this because you have a personal brand, believe it or not. I grew up at Procter & Gamble, and they had a saying, we do not make toothpaste, we make Crest. There's a big damn difference between toothpaste and Crest, and there's a big difference between you thinking what you operate like and how the world sees you. I would encourage you, if you can, find a website, ask people anonymously is best what your brand is. If you think you're a visionary leader and your organization thinks you're a micromanaging ninny, what good does that do you? The gap between what you think and the world thinks is amazing. You can get this from your family too. You think you're hilarious, they think you're stupid. You're like, are you talking about me? It's crazy. And attitude is huge in this one. Attitude. I have a whole award I put out about attitude because I think it's so critical when I've talked about it. Okay, you got to know and manage your personal brand. Here's what happens. The close calls. What happens is all these little things that you were right at the margin and all of a sudden you win. And the cumulative effect of all these wins makes you wildly successful as a person or as a leader. Then your org is wildly successful. And what happens is you can raise the flag and say, I got a touchdown. It's beautiful. The impact is huge, huge, huge. So here's why I say, real leadership of your business, your people, and yourself, all 3 of those aspects that I talked about, is critically important because what happens is it helps you tip the balance. So those ones right there at the margin, not the ones you know you're going to win and you know you're going to lose. You got a few of those. Those ones at the margin, all of a sudden you get a weight down there, and the positive happens. And when that happens, it enables you to win at the margin.